Yeah.
And so, they were just breaking Rihanna. It wasn't like she was Rihanna yet. But I love to tell this part of the story because that's where we started. And that was around May of 2007.
Yeah.
November, December of 2007. So 6 months later, we are now back in Europe playing sold out shows at stadiums to 15 to 20,000 people.
Wow.
And we filmed a live DVD on that tour. And so it was an explosion, man.
So what happened between that moment that you started playing with her and you hit tour to what you're speaking of now when you were starting to play in front of 15 to 20,000 people?
Yeah, literally umbrella happened.
It was the umbrella.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Lobster and Beer. My name is Brian Thompson. Today's guest is a multi-talented instrumentalist, producer, songwriter, yoga teacher, spiritual guru, and inspiring thought leader. He's played alongside some of the biggest artists in the game, including Rihanna, Eminem, Jay-Z, KSHMR, Miguel, Morello, Lady Gaga, Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, Chris Brown, Ricky Martin, A$AP Rocky, and the list goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to us live from his home studio in Nashville, Tennessee, with a lobster and a beer, OnenO!
Dude, I need you as my hype man in real life. This shit was bananas.
What's cracking, my brother?
Yo, man, I'm just living the dream. I got my lobster and beer. I'm ready to go.
I love that, man. I love that.
Also,
dude, how do you,
I gotta say that I love that you're coming out strong with your shorts game. Really, really. I mean, I'm in my sweatpants, but I'm not going to show you guys that.
Hey, you just called me out in front of the whole audience because no one on actually our camera can see that I'm rocking shorts right now. But I almost wore underwear, and Alec was like, "Hey, man, I feel a little uncomfortable with you rocking underwear next to me, so
Thanks.
maybe throw some shorts on. Let's do this."
We got to wait for you.
I got you. I'm coming in right now.
Almost there.
Booyah. Cheers, my brother.
Hey, cheers, everybody.
To OnenO.
Yeah.
That Sea Dog Blue Paw Blueberry Ale, man.
Bro, this smells good. Really good.
You like it?
Oh, yeah. I've never had anything like this before.
This lobster roll right here sitting in front of me, I can't even talk about the beer anymore because this thing is in my nose. This sauce that you picked for the lobster roll, tell me about it.
Yeah. So we got the Nando's peri peri sauce. My favorite version of that is the medium garlic. I think it's like garlic and herb or something. It's bananas. It's life-changing. So when I was on tour with Rihanna, actually, we first of all, I want to just say that I kept a list in my iPhone for the 4 years I toured with her of all the countries that we performed in. We actually performed in over 35 countries around the world.
Holy shit,
5 of the 7 continents.
That's incredible.
It was bananas.
What was that like?
Bro, it was absolutely insane. I mean, life-changing. I was 21 to 25 at that time. And so, I mean, it changed my whole life. And to bring it back to the peri peri sauce, we were in UK for one of my first times ever in the UK. And Rihanna was like, "We got to go to Nando's." She says it funny. "We got to go to Nando's." And so I was like, "I have no idea what you're saying right now, but sign me up."
Before we even move forward, do you want me to dip the lobster roll in there or should I drizzle this on the roll?
I mean, I'm going to dip on my side, but I'm going to take a bite without the Nando's first because this is just looking crazy.
Yeah, it's that Get Maine lobster freshness, man. They know how to make the right lobster roll. You drizzled the butter on it before too?
Oh, I did so much better. I put butter on both sides of the bread, toasted that shit, And then I got the
Yes.
lobster on there. Then I drizzled more butter on top of it.
Yes.
And it's about to be crazy.
I love it, man. I'm gonna try this dip too.
All right,
This
I'm
looks
going for it. I've never made anything like this at my house before, so I'm impressed with my skill today. I gotta say.
I'm excited to see this bun right now. Oh, dude, you did it right. Is that your first try?
God.
Did you try it before? This is the first bite.
Legit first bite. Holy crap, man.
Oh, first reaction.
Oh, good.
Shout out
I've been
Mark
waiting
from
all
Maine.
day.
Yes. I'm diving in, bro. I'm gonna dip it into your
Dive
sauce
in.
right now. I gotta see. Did you try the sauce yet?
Dude,
All right, here we
let
go.
me tell you.
I'm amazed at how tender that lobster is, considering that it's like a male-based product. It's really good.
Oh wow.
All right, now I'm going to try the Nando's with it. Let's see how that goes.
The Nando's. I'll be honest, man. I was a little nervous about the Nando's. That adds a nice flavor to the lobster.
That heat too.
It's not because this is a medium Nando's.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not too much though. It's
No.
a perfect spice because I'm not burning up right now. I might be speaking too soon. In about 30 seconds, I might be sweating. I might need Matt to give me some milk, but
This is like childhood for you, kind of, right?
it is, man. So I grew up in Massachusetts, but every summer, the day school ended, my mom would pick me up. We had one of those old Dodge Caravans with the wooden paneling on the side, and my mom would fill that thing to the brim with everything we needed for the summer. She would pick me up out front at school and drive me up to Maine to our summer house in York Beach, Maine, and we'd stay there the whole summer. And what was ridiculous about that too is I used to complain about leaving our hometown in Massachusetts because I was leaving all my friends and stuff to go to this beautiful beach town.
Right, yeah.
And multiple times during the summer, there was this one spot called the Lobster in the Rough. And we go there with our whole family and we'd sit down and you get, fresh lobsters cooked there to order. And we'd have this experience where we sit around the picnic table, we crack lobsters and just, have a good time with family and a good experience talking about life and stuff, man. So this definitely, yeah, you're right. This plays a big part in my childhood. Absolutely.
I love that social aspect of food. It seems to open people up and people bond really fast. And there's just so many amazing memories, I think, from all of our lives that have to do with the different foods that we eat. But I love that
Absolutely.
environment of like that beautiful area with a picnic table, and that's so awesome.
Absolutely, man. So speaking of childhood, man, before we get into the career that you blossomed, take me back. So you started as a keyboard player. Take me back to the early days, how you got into playing keys, and what inspired you at that time to get into it and start playing.
Oh man. My mom tells this story that when I was around 6 years old, one day she found me on the piano just trying to play by myself, try to play like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or something like that. So then she got the idea, I wonder if I could show him some Mozart or some Beethoven. And because she was also a piano teacher at that time. So she just kind of started teaching me by ear and like showing me, why don't you play this with your right hand? And then I'd play it and then play this with your left hand. And then I was immediately in love with it. And there's something, I think everybody that either plays music or just listens to music, everybody feels the magic of music. There's something in it that is just inherent in our being. And so what I immediately fell in love with was the idea that I could learn these incredible songs that, people from the past had made. I grew up mostly playing classical music as a foundation.
Yeah.
And so I fell in love with that. I got addicted to that there's like a piece of paper with notes on it. And if I can learn that, I can play what Beethoven played. I can play what Mozart played.
So when you say that though, so do you not, because I know a lot, speaking as a musician, I know a lot of my friends who are musicians as well, they struggle with, and I struggle the same, when we create something day of, a lot of the time we look back at it and we're like, it's that immediate, self-deprecating attitude where we're like, nah,
Sure.
it's not worth it. That's not good. And then we lose our, we strip ourselves of validation. But what you just said is totally different to me, which probably plays a lot in the way that you kind of came up for yourself.
It's a little bit of both, you know. Of course, I have that part of myself as an artist. I'm always second guessing and doubting and thinking that this could be better or that could be better.
Yeah.
But I think also there was a turning point in my production. This guitar player in the band, in Rihanna's band, named Nuno Betancourt, and he's from the band Extreme. He wrote that song More Than Words.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's like a legend, and he connected me with this studio in town. Well, both he and Jay Brown, because Jay Brown was Rihanna's main A&R. And so they both connected me with the producer named No ID. And
Oh wow.
he's massive. You know, he's a
Yeah.
huge dude.
Oh, absolutely.
At that time, he had me come into the studio, and I was working with him for a few months there. And one day we got into a conversation, and just to set the scene, Common was in the studio. No ID was over there, and then it was like me and 2 or 3 other dudes. So one day while we're having this conversation, No ID said, "It doesn't matter what you think, it matters what comes out of the speakers. The speakers
Yeah.
never lie." That's the exact thing he said. The speakers never lie.
Yeah.
And that really struck a chord in me. And I was already kind of on that page of wanting to learn how to make my songs sound amazing. Also, another short story. While I was on tour with Rui, she and Chris Brown were dating at the time. And I had started showing Chris some of the music that I was producing at that time. And he loved it. We ended up writing a few songs together. One got pitched to the Jonas Brothers. Another got pitched to the Backstreet Boys reunion album. And while ultimately those songs did not end up anywhere in the public, it showed me that I have what it takes, that I can do this.
What's up, guys? As always, thank you for watching. I promise we will get back to the episode right away. But I want to let you know about something special that we are doing. Here at L&B, mental health is very important to us. So we have collaborated with today's guest to create a t-shirt based around subjects that we've talked about in today's episode and stuff that means a lot in their lives. And we put it into the t-shirt in a design, and we're selling it right here at this link. If you go to this link, you buy the t-shirt, 100% of the profits for the next month will go to a mental health organization. So right here, this link, go get that t-shirt. Now back to the episode. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It shows like again painting a story, you know, and really focusing in, and like I said, being able to take that image, and what you're envisioning in your head, and then actually being able to hear it. That's really feeling something.
Yeah, and the
whole
journey
struggle.
and the testament to how much time it takes to put into a production. It's not, you're not sitting down for one 8-hour session.
No,
And sometimes that first idea can develop into
all
something
about
totally
the first
different.
idea.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's actually a huge lesson I learned from Chris Brown. Chris was one of the most inspirational people to me at that time. And it's unfortunate what happened between he and Rihanna. But just speaking about his creative ability, that dude is wild. Like, he is absolutely insane with how he creates. And the number one thing I learned from him as a producer was go with your first instinct and don't question it. And don't think about what's coming next. I remember I walked into the studio. We had just gotten off tour. It was one of those magical nights, right? Magical story.
Yeah.
I get into this studio in LA. It's literally just me, Chris, Rihanna,
Yeah.
Rob A, who wrote the song Disturbia and the other song Forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just the 4 of us and possibly an engineer. And I turned up to the studio with a CD. I had a CD of beats.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, put it in the system. So we start bumping it. And I had maybe 6 or 7 songs on there, and he plays the first song, and within, probably 30 seconds, he's like, all right, next, goes to the next one. He gives another 30, 45 seconds. Okay, next. And we get to the next one. And then within the first 10 seconds, he starts singing an idea, and he's immediately vibing. And he's like, I like this idea. And it was all based on like one word. And then next thing you know, he's like, all right, I'm going into the booth. And it was that fast.
Wow.
And then he just goes into the booth and he starts laying down whatever's flowing through his mind. And that became the process. And we did that a few times with each other. And so I immediately started seeing in Chris that he doesn't doubt his little ideas.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even try to come up with the best idea from the beginning. It's like, this is the idea that I have right now, so I'm going with it.
Yeah.
And I think that really impacted my songwriting and production process, where I no longer try to judge that small moment of excitement. I no longer try to think about where is this going to go or what are people going to think or any of that stuff. It's like I found this idea and it's resonating so deeply within me. I just have to pursue that.
I got to ask a question. So I can't help but wonder that lesson that you learned working with Chris, though, I feel like that's not something you necessarily just learn off of a whim. I feel like that's something that is grown innately in you. And I want to rewind because you told us how, you know, you started music with your parents and their inspiration for what they were doing. But you picked up piano yourself and started working through that. And then you moved to LA and you got a job with Rihanna. Walk me through that process.
And how I got my very first gig was I was doing an audition for Gwen Stefani. And so I'm like 19 years old. I've been in LA for 5 months, you know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Gwen Stefani is available. And so I gave it my all. I spent like 3 days out of the weekend getting ready for that audition. I turn up to the audition and they gave me the callback. So then there was like, 20 dudes that showed up and now there's 5 callback slots. I got one of them. Everybody else is like 30 plus and I'm 19. Yeah. So I get the callback, I come back and I do it. And then the waiting game. And it takes like a week or two before I hear that this guy, Chris, had gotten the gig. And I was like, fuck, I really wanted that gig. So then Chris was in Liz Phair's band. And Liz Phair, she's mostly known for her indie rock stuff in the past, but a lot of people know her from that song, Why Can't I?
Yes,
Why can't I breathe whenever I think about you?
Yeah,
that was popular about a year before I did this audition.
Yeah.
So Chris was in Liz's band and they were getting ready for a 4-month tour. And then Chris picked up the gig with Gwen. So he bounced on that gig. So now the Liz band, the MD calls Barry and says, hey, whoever you had for the callback for Gwen, can you just have them come audition for us?
Oh, wow.
So the 4 of us go into that gig and we audition. And then I got that gig. And how I got that gig was because I was the only keyboard player that came in that simultaneously played the keyboard and a tambourine at the same time. And she just thought it was cool.
Do you have a tambourine with you right now?
Did you bring
is the keyboard, hold on. Is the keyboard turned on right now?
No, it's not on.
Okay. Next time though. I need
tambourine,
to see that.
Always within arm's reach.
So Nando, the Liz Phair gig, how long were you with that? And then where was the did Liz Phair, did that opportunity move into the Rihanna gig or what happened in between that?
So after the Liz gig, then it just started coming through people knowing me. And one of my good friends from music school, he got a gig with this girl named Cheyenne Kimball. And then he had me join that band. And at that time, this was like 2006. And she had an MTV reality show. She was kind of like Ashley Simpson 2.0. It was like just after Ashley. And so then I joined that band and I did that for a year. And then that came to a close. And then again, just through friend networks, an independent artist out of Florida named David. Oh God, I can't remember his last name. Sorry, David, if you're out there listening.
Hey David, we love you. Hey, this one's for David.
Cheers, David.
Cheers, David.
Cheers, David.
Yeah, actually, he played a big part in getting the Rihanna gig, like by proxy. So I ended up going out on an independent tour with David. And it was super indie. We were just doing coffee shops, just he and I, me on piano, him on guitar and vocals. And I did that for about 4 months. And then I was about to go out and do my last scheduled gig with David. And I woke up one morning in my apartment to a phone call. And actually, I missed it. It went to my voicemail. And I listened to it, and it was this guy named Tony. And he's like, hey, I got your number from Barry Squire, who I mentioned earlier. And I work with this artist named Rihanna. We have a keyboard player, but he's not really working out. we think you might be a good fit for the band. Do you want to come down and audition tonight?
Wait, was this Tony Maserati?
No, who I did work with later, but this is Tony Bruno.
Tony Bruno. Okay.
As MD for Rihanna's band at that time.
Yeah.
So I called Tony back, but I'm a very spiritual person. There's a very interesting spiritual thing that happened right at this moment in my life. So I got that voicemail, right? And then immediately my heart and my soul started buzzing. And it wasn't because Rihanna was big. Rihanna, the Umbrella had not even come out yet. In fact, one of the audition songs I got was Umbrella. So it was like 4 months before that even hit the radio. So all Rihanna was known for at that time was Unfaithful and
what was your first thought of Umbrella? Now knowing hindsight what it was when you first played it, what was your thought of it, if you remember?
Oh, my literal first thought was these drums bang so fucking hard. And then when Jay-Z came in, I was like, holy, how does this guy have so much swag? So much swag. And then I thought it was a dope song, but I was kind of a little bit sidetracked with having to learn it my first time hearing it. So I was immediately in kind of an analytical mode, but I loved it. I thought it was great. So I went down that night. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was going to tell you the spiritual moment.
Yeah.
So I call Tony back and I tell him I'd love to come down and audition. And he says, great. I'll tell you more details later, but we're gearing up for a small tour. So come down tonight. And I get off the phone with him. It's like 10:30 in the morning and hang up the phone. And immediately my soul all I could think was I have to pray right now. And so I don't always do this, but I got down on my knees, kind of like in prayer pose up against my bed. And I just started praying a deep prayer of gratitude. And it's so strange when I tell this story because there's no reason why I was feeling this, but my soul was just like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And I've never had that reaction to any other audition. Of course, I've been stoked and I've been grateful, but this specific reaction was coming from somewhere beyond me. And so I just immediately prayed and was like recognizing that this was going to be big, even though I didn't know why.
That's beautiful. You felt something from it. And
yeah.
That's incredible. And honestly, hearing the story that comes before that, it's almost like you manifested this moment.
Yeah,
and
man.
You prepared yourself for that point. And there was that moment that you felt it, that it was happening, which is incredible.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like my journey through life, the same thing that led me into the Rihanna gig is the same thing that led me out of the Rihanna gig. Is that I've always followed that still small voice in the middle of my chest, which to me is the voice of spirit. That's the voice of God. And I've always followed that no matter what, no matter how weird it might get or how perfect it might get.
Yeah.
That's my true north, is when my soul vibrates and I feel that still small voice. That's when I know. And that's what I always try to follow. And it's strange because sometimes it leads me in directions that my logical brain doesn't understand. But like I said, my soul, it knows and it resonates. And that's all that I need.
Yeah.
So, and I felt that. That's why I immediately dropped down and prayed. And I was just so grateful.
That's powerful.
And then I turned up that night to the audition and we played the 3 songs that I had learned. And then we did a jam and they wanted me to solo. And it was just one of those magic solos because I'm not a shredder. You know what I mean? Like I can hold my own, but I've never been a shredder. I'm like, I'll play the most difficult classical piano thing that you could imagine. But if you want me to improvise that, I'm like, I don't know about that. But I jammed.
You did it that night.
But that night I did. And it was just one of those beautiful moments. And so then they hired me on the spot. They're like, can you start tomorrow at noon? And so then we did about 3 weeks of rehearsals. And then we popped over to London and we started our European promo tour where we were playing 6 songs total at festivals, usually around 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And so, they were just breaking Rihanna. It wasn't like she was Rihanna yet. But I love to tell this part of the story because that's where we started. And that was around May of 2007.
Yeah.
November, December of 2007, so 6 months later, we are now back in Europe playing sold out shows at stadiums to 15 to 20,000 people.
Wow.
And we filmed a live DVD on that tour. And so it was an explosion, man.
So what happened between that moment that you started playing with her and you hit tour to what you're speaking of now when you were starting to play in front of 15 to 20,000 people?
Yeah, literally Umbrella happened.
It was the Umbrella.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Umbrella hit the radio and then it just fucking exploded.
Wow.
And also not to mention that album, for those that don't know, is called Good Girl Gone Bad. And that album on its original release, because they ended up doing deluxe copies, forgive me if I get these stats wrong because it's been a long time, but I believe it had 11 songs and 9 of them were #1 singles on Billboard.
I guess we should cheer. I guess we should cheers to that too.
Cheers to that.
Yeah. It was insane.
So that changed your career from that point, because you, like you said, you went from playing the 3 p.m. slots on Sundays at festivals to that album hitting. Was the first single off of that Umbrella?
That album's first single was Umbrella, as far as I remember. And then we just started going through them all. There was Rehab. Actually, I think Rehab was maybe on the deluxe edition. There was Shut Up and Drive, which I'm in that music video. That was really fun. And what else was on that album? Man, it's been over 14 years ago for me. So it's a long time ago. But so many singles.
So let me ask you this. You start with Rihanna. She has no hit.
Mm-hmm.
She's just an artist that you were brought on. She's signed to a label. You start playing with her. How many people were in the band at that time?
We had 4, including myself, 4 total, and then 2 background singers.
Yeah, and from there, like, you guys were touring around, and were you guys all hanging out all the time?
Oh, yeah, it was like a family, man. That was the other thing. The first 2 years of touring with her was so insanely magical because she was 19 at the time. I had just turned 21.
Wow.
And so for her, it was a dream come true. For all of us, it was a dream come true.
Yeah.
And we're all like, nobody's jaded yet. We're all just out there like soaking it in and just can't believe we're doing what we're doing, And I mean, for me, it was like 3 years prior, I was in my hometown. And now 3 years later, I'm touring around the world. I'm playing in Sweden and in Japan. Like, we played a show in Japan where Linkin Park opened up for us. And I was like, what the actual fuck?
That's incredible.
I love Linkin Park. They're one of my favorite bands, especially at that time.
And were you able to recognize that moment, when it was like, that you were all young? Like, were you able to take a second and be like, wow,
100%. 100%. So here's another thing not a lot of people know about me. I wear this ring on my finger, and I got this when I was around 15 years old. My dad took me to San Francisco to see my favorite band called Dream Theater.
Oh, yes. Love Dream Theater.
Love Dream Theater. So I got this ring on the Fisherman's Wharf. And then when I got home, I was too young to get a tattoo. So what my next best thing was, I wanted to get my ring engraved, and I engraved it with the phrase, "I am a dreamer." And so it became my true north. Every time I was in community college or like just had that overwhelming feeling of like, I gotta get to my future. I gotta get to my goals. I had this ring on my finger and I would just look at it and I'd remember, I'm going. I'm a dreamer. I'm going to do it. And then next thing you know, I'm on this stage. And so a ritual of mine, to answer your question, Alec, a ritual of mine was at the very end of every single show, I'd kiss my ring and I'd say thank you to God.
I love that.
And that was it. Every single show.
You know that you said that to Alec now. He's going to start doing that after every show.
100%. I already got the ritual in, baby. Let's go. I'm going to get a ring.
Wait till episode 2. He's going to have a ring on his thumb.
Yep. It was the best. Yeah. But I've always been super grateful for this, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to compare myself to other people, but I've never had an opposite of that, I've always just seen the gift that this is, and being able to be out there. Like, I don't know. I was always in that mindset. It wasn't something I ever had to learn. I mean, maybe I was taught it when I was a kid, but for me, it was just, like, wow, I get to do this. This is absolutely insane. And I love it.
That's incredible. Dude, so Umbrella hits, you say that, leading up to that, you guys were a family as a band. And Umbrella hits, Rihanna takes off. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine where you guys are playing festivals. She's doing interviews, she's doing photo shoots, she's doing commercials. I'm sure the label at this point is exploiting her to a level that, as regular people who are watching the show right now, have no idea what that's like. Oh, yeah. How did that change the dynamic that you had as that family, as a band?
So it's an interesting story, because actually where we started with each other was at the moment that Umbrella got broke to the public.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have years before with her in that way, but Umbrella popped off, and then she became super busy. We all became super busy. We probably honestly played about, I'm just guessing, but somewhere around 200 shows a year.
Wow.
For those first few years. And it was insane. But those first 2 years, while we were that busy and she was doing photo shoots, and I'll tell you a story about Eminem's collaboration with her and the song Love the Way You Lie. But yeah, she was always busy, always. But we were also young, and we had excess energy, so it's like you do a show and then you go to an after party and then you stay up on the tour bus and then you sleep until 4 p.m. and you do it all the next day. And so we were just going. And that's where the family vibe was actually being built, was that we were all kind of on this rocket ship to the moon, and we were just loving it and just enjoying every moment of it. And then where things really started to change was actually 2 years later, 2 years into the gig. So this is around 2009, when she and Chris Brown had their domestic violence situation happen. It was so gut-wrenching for so many reasons.
Because you had a friendship with Chris before all of that.
Chris was on tour with us for about a year before they went public as a couple.
Yeah.
So he was actually on tour. Like, I mean, I have so much video footage of me just like filming him skate in the backstage, because my biggest hobby was video and he loved skateboarding. He's like, you want to film? And we just started bonding with each other.
Yeah.
And then
so
we started writing.
You saw that relationship develop from the beginning,
totally.
Before the public knew at that time.
Yeah. To give people an understanding of how toxic this, media can be, Chris and her they were friends for a long time, and then they started dating each other. And then I remember there was this one time we were all down in Jamaica together, and we were doing a show, and there was a paparazzi tabloid photo that had somehow got snapped of them kissing each other in the pool. And it was crazy because at that time, I don't know which publication put out this number, whether it was TMZ or something like that, but they had a $100,000 bounty on the first photo of them kissing.
Wow.
And so somebody got it, and then that's kind of how it blew up. But yeah, they were just kids, like they were both 19. When you're 19, do you want the world watching you? Do you want the world hunting a photo of you kissing your lover? Like, it's shit like that's insane to me.
So I can't imagine you probably saw the effect of that type of stuff.
Oh yeah, there was another time personally. We were celebrating Chris Brown's birthday. We were all on tour. This is when Chris and we were doing a co-headlining tour together. So they were performing, we were performing. We went out, we celebrated his birthday. At the end of the night, we don't usually travel like this, but on that night, because it was a special occasion, we had one gigantic stretch, like Hummer or something like that. And we all get back into it. And as they get into the door, somehow the window got rolled down just enough for two paparazzi to stick their camera right into the car and they had rapid fire flashes just going off. And then those pops, they go running down the street, and Chris Brown's security guard runs after him. This is all a public story, so I'll tell the full thing. He ended up tackling one of the dudes and broke his camera, and then he ended up getting sued by the camera guy.
Wow.
It was just dramatic. It's like always an invasion, you know? And then everywhere we'd go in airports, you have just people shouting, people taking pictures, people wanting pictures. Of course, there was a shitload of love, like so many people love. But then there was all these douchebags everywhere too, you know? It's just, you know, it is what it is.
So,
but yeah,
so real quick though, one day will we see an OnenO, you know, produce Chris Brown's skate video? Do you still have that footage?
You never know. It's in my archive. It's in my archive. All I gotta say is follow my YouTube channel, because you never
There
know.
we go. It's coming soon.
What's the YouTube channel?
My YouTube, you can find me by searching for OnenO. But I believe if you want to actually find it, youtube.com/c/IamOnenO.
I love it.
All of my social links can be found on my website too, which is iamoneno.com.
I love that. And so before we continue the story, I've wanted to ask you this question for a long time. What is the story behind the name OnenO?
It is a large story. It's large and short, I guess, at the same time. The meaning to me is very large. So let me give you a few more bullet points, because they play into that answer. So around 2009, maybe early 2010, working with Ree, there was a day that came up for me where all of a sudden I realized I didn't love what I was doing anymore. And like I said, that still small voice in the middle of my chest gave me the nudge one day and said, hey, I think you can move on. You're ready. You're ready to move on. You're 24 years old. You got a shitload of money in your savings. You have a ton of network. My goal has always been to be an artist. And so that still small voice said, you can stay here. You can be safe and comfortable. You could probably do this gig until you're 40. Or you can follow your bliss, follow your joy, and live in alignment with what your heart wants, and thank this opportunity for what it has been and move on to the next thing. And so I did that. And again, briefly, just on what was going on there was Chris and Ree had gotten into their domestic violence situation. And that is really where the gig changed. Everything changed after that. There's so much to tell, so I'll just kind of skip over it for now, unless there's something specific you want to hear. But paparazzi got crazy, media got insane. She kind of went away for 6 months, and it was absolutely insane. And so
did you seeing that, seeing all that craziness and then Rihanna stepping away, did that, kind of make you be like, whoa, maybe you dreamed of you wanting that, but then maybe at that point you were like, whoa, maybe this is not what I want.
There was definitely a lot of that, or I should say some of that. That wasn't the main thing that kind of did it, but that was a huge eye opener for me, realizing that, she has no private life. You can't leave a hotel and get in a car without 75 people wanting your photo. So it's pretty insane. So I definitely started seeing that, maybe this is not all it's cracked up to be. But really, I think my depression set in as just by kind of being around Rihanna's depression. And that is, I'm not blaming her at all. I understand her depression so deeply, but she felt trapped. She felt like she was living in a fish bubble or a fish bowl, whatever they say. And so she got really depressed, and that started just being the vibe of the backstage. And then management was trying to be all political. And so they started separating the band from her. And so that whole family vibe just basically immediately changed. And then that's when things started feeling like a job. And then I don't want to name names here, but there was some people involved that started meddling in what the band was allowed to play and not allowed to play.
Oh, wow.
And so that really affected my happiness as a musician. And I just was like, well, you're really limiting my my ability to create, my ability to be here. And it hasn't been that way. And now it's turning into this whole corporate situation that I'm not in. So I then thought it was my time to bounce. And there's just this whole, it's just such a big convoluted story. There's so many elements to it. So yeah, then I quit and I started learning how to produce and trying to teach myself how to take my imagination and come out of the speakers, like I was saying. And so then immediately after I quit working with Ree, my brother and I had formed a band. And that was an awesome project that we did for about 3 or so years. And then that band came to its end. And so then I was bandless and artist nameless. And I didn't know what I was going to call myself. So one day I was in my house. I think I had just come out of a meditation, and it wasn't the word OnenO didn't come to me. It was an idea. I love palindromes. And for those that don't know, palindromes are words that you can read both forwards and backwards. And so I love the idea of palindromes and how they have this kind of circular feeling to them. And then I also love the idea of oneness and how we're all connected. That was a huge part of my spiritual growth, was learning that we are all deeply connected. And this whole phrase that kept coming up, I have it tattooed on my arm. It's a Sanskrit phrase that is tatvamasi, which is translated to I am you and you are me, or you are that. And so it's basically talking about the oneness of everybody. And so one day, this idea of taking the word one, O-N-E, and turning it into a palindrome just kind of popped into my mind.
Yeah.
And so then I pronounced that OnenO, and it's spelled O-N-E-N-O. And it also, just from a pure artist side, came from the fact that I wanted to define my word. Because at that time I was thinking about, what if I went by the artist name Galaxy and I might spell it, very artistically.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, like, as soon as you say the word galaxy, everybody has a picture in their mind. They have an internal definition of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I want my music to define who I am. I want my sound to define who I am as an artist. And so I loved this idea that I could say, my artist name is OnenO. If somebody says, what's your artist name? I say, OnenO. I love that there's 2 reactions always. The first reaction is, what? Nobody knows what I'm saying. And I love that, because then that backs up the second reaction, which is that they don't know what to think about it. And so I love then that my art is the thing that can be associated with the name.
Some juicy stuff you're hearing, I know, and we'll get right back to it. But I want to let you guys know, he's laughing, but I want to let you guys know, we have a Patreon, and if you want to see more juicy stuff, more footage that is not in this episode, if you hit this link right here, you can go to the Patreon, you can see that stuff. We have exclusive giveaways from Get Maine Lobster, Shipyard Beer. You can see everything that you cannot see in this episode that we're actually not allowed to load up on YouTube. If you click this link right here, join our group, you're going to get special offers, hangouts with us in the LMB studio, have a beer with us. You can even join our weekly Zoom calls where we edit these episodes. So once again, this Patreon right here. Now, back to the episode.
No, can you take us through the 21 days of meditation program that you kind of developed and that you go over on your YouTube and stuff?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that question. So in 2014, I did a yoga teacher training, and yoga and meditation became deeply important for me. When I quit working with Ree in the very beginning of 2011, some major life changes happened in my life. My dad, who I told you guys was a pastor, he ended up coming out of the closet as gay, and that revolutionized my family and all of our friends, and a lot of drama happened. And so 6 months later, I realized how depressed I was from quitting the Rihanna gig and having a type of PTSD experience with that. And I'm only going to say that because that's what my therapist later ended up helping me understand. I was going through a form of PTSD, because we think of PTSD as like bombs going off overseas in a war. But realistically, PTSD is anytime you go through an experience that other people literally cannot understand. And now you're living with that. And that was literally what was happening. Nobody could understand what I had just seen. And so I felt insanely isolated. And I reached eventually, because of that and because of my family stuff, I reached a massive depression. And so then I eventually, through the help of my therapist, I found yoga and meditation, as well as many other incredible books along those subjects. And I threw myself into it. And then in 2014, I did a yoga teacher training. And by the time I got to the end of that training, I realized I do love teaching yoga, but I love teaching meditation more. There's something inside my soul. I consider myself an old soul that just knows that process. And so I feel very capable of articulating that to help people get into that space. And so then, yeah, as soon as I finished the teacher training, I thought, maybe it was like a year later, but then I thought, I want to put together a course so I can help people get into this internal space that I feel that has really revolutionized my depression and my inner state. And so I'm extremely passionate about meditation. I'm extremely passionate about yoga, because when I say this was the deepest, darkest time of my life, it's an understatement. And if it wasn't for those two elements, along with the plethora of other stuff that you need to help with mental health, but those two elements specifically revolutionized my depression. And just
are there a couple tips you can give people, either struggling or just trying to get into meditating and stuff? Obviously, without divulging too much, everyone should, subscribe to you. Sure. You have a Patreon.
I got a Patreon and all that.
But
yeah, if you go to my website, which is onenO.com, there's a meditation page and you can buy the course. But you can also find me on YouTube. I did a series for all of 2017 called Meditation Monday. So there's like 50 free meditations you can do that are guided by me on my YouTube. So you can check those out for free. But yeah, my biggest tip would be, first of all, I like to demystify meditation. A lot of people hear that word and they immediately have some sort of mental image about what that is. Well, I like to say that meditation is the only activity of inactivity that we promote in our society. So meditation is not actually doing anything. In fact, it's the opposite. You're trying to not do anything. And here's where it becomes mystical, is because the goal, I think, in meditation is to literally just sit and be comfortable, not doing anything, not focusing your mind towards something. I'm not actually a fan of using meditation and visualization together. I think visualization is an amazing technique. And there's some forms of visualization I do when I teach people, but realistically, when I'm talking visualization, people think like, if I want this dream job or dream relationship or whatever, they think they got to visualize it. And then they try to go into meditation. They try to visualize those things. I'm not against that, but I don't think that that's the core of what meditation actually is, especially when you understand Eastern philosophy and the way that the yogis teach it. What meditation really is it starts like this: sit down, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and don't move. And then watch your brain start to freak the fuck out. Like, that's the natural.
I think that's an important point right there. But that's a scary moment. I feel like when people are first getting into meditating, is again you sit there and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be shut off, but all I can do is think.
Right, and that's okay. Like, this is in the beginning, that's okay, because realistically, what you're doing is you're actually learning to be comfortable with that discomfort. You're learning to be comfortable with that kind of internal rub that you're going to feel in the very beginning. When I started my meditation journey, I'm massively depressed. And so I'm like wanting relief from my depression. Then I sit in meditation. All I can think is these, over the top negative thoughts. You're a failure for quitting working with Ree. You're never going to be as successful again. And all of this kind of like mental beating me up, right? But meditation is, if I can sit here and I can count my breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as I breathe in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as I breathe out. The moment I see another thought come in, I can welcome it. So I'm not fighting it. So the thought comes in that says, you're a failure. And I say, oh, hello there. And then the next thing I do is I say, now's not the time for you. Please move along. And I let that thought pass on by, and I just come back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's something that is very basic and yet incredibly powerful, because the less attached we can become to our internal thinking, the clearer we can be internally, the clearer we can actually find our creative voice if you're a creative. But also this is now where the conversation may launch into Joe Dispenza or Neville Goddard or Abraham Hicks or things like that, because then it's from this inner state of peace that then the law of attraction really ramps up. But it's fascinating because it's something that you don't do that then leads to that. You don't visualize. You don't sit there and like try to pump your brain full of stuff. You sit there and try to empty yourself. And the more you empty, the more peaceful you become, the more aligned you feel, the more at peace you feel. Those things that you really want naturally come in. You don't have to fight for them. You don't have to fight your mind to visualize them. They start being attracted to you because you're finally at a higher vibration of peace. Peace is higher than chaos. So that's maybe how I would summarize it. But meditation is very simple, and it doesn't have to be hard. The hardest thing is that we immediately feel that discomfort and we want to run. But if you can sit through it, that discomfort goes down over time. And then you start looking at meditation as this beautiful retreat from the chaos of the world around you.
It's beautiful. I love that. So we only have a few more minutes with you.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. You made the transition from working with Rihanna. You went through that struggle, that depression, to becoming a producer, which you always were.
Yeah.
Putting your focus towards production.
Yeah.
How has that been for you? I mean, I know just recently you had a huge release with Cyberpunk. Tell us about that. I mean, how has that felt, man? I mean, like the end of 2020 for most people was a struggle, but for you, I mean, man, that was a big moment for you. I mean, you had your song was the soundtrack to the trailer. Yeah. Of one of the biggest games, or the biggest
one of the most hyped games
of 2020. Exactly. And to be honest, man, I mean, I live in Los Angeles. I live in Hollywood. I drive by every bus station and every billboard through October, November, December of 2020 was Cyberpunk. Yep. And I thought of you every time.
Wild. I know. You would text me too, and I love that.
And there's probably a piece that we probably shouldn't put in here for legal restrictions, but let's be honest, man. I know. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I love you. You were in Nashville. There was no billboards in Nashville. The Cyberpunk billboards were in LA. They had them in the bus stations. There was one night where they had a couple too many shipyard beers, and I ended up going down to the bus station far away from my house. I made sure I had a driver, and she drove me down a couple bus stations down. I found a rock. I threw it at that glass. I thought it would break. It didn't break. I was trying to get you that poster. Like, my dream was to mail you that poster. Because as a friend, I was so proud of you, man.
Dude,
I was so
that's
proud
like
of
the
you,
ultimate bro move right there. Not just buying a poster, but stealing a poster.
That's official.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't get in trouble for that. But it's wild to see that stuff everywhere. Like, it was so cool. So briefly, that part of the story is I made this song called Makes Me Feel Better in 2012.
Oh, wow.
This was alongside that other song I mentioned earlier called Bullet Through My Brain. It was on that album I did with my brother, and I made it in 2012. And I don't want to name names for this part of my story, but I ended up getting signed on this record with somebody, and they were, it was kind of a real LA type thing. They were like, you're amazing. Your music is incredible. We're going to get this in movies and trailers and all of this and that. And then 3 or so years later, when none of that had happened, I confronted this person and they were like, well, you know what? This music really kind of sucks and it's not our fault. It's really your fault. You should just leave this music in the past and make better music. And I was like, I disagree. And so now we're going to go two different ways.
Yeah.
And so that's also kind of along the time that I decided to move to Nashville because I was just really getting done with the petty bullshit of Los Angeles. So then fast forward 2017, I get a prompt one day that Cyberpunk is looking for music, and I submit that song and I start making other music that I can submit to them. And then I got the email that they were going to use the song in the game. And I thought that was like the peak of the story. I'm like, this is incredible that it's going to be in the video game somewhere. And then fast forward to 2019, one of the other songs I made, which is called Dirty Roses, they used that in one of their live streams where they were debuting the game for the first time and like showing some of the game mechanics.
Did you know they were going to use that?
No idea.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea. And I'm sitting there on the couch with my girl, and all of a sudden it was like that moment in the movie, That Thing You Do, where they're like, they hear their song on the radio for the first time.
Yes.
They freak the fuck out.
They all freak out in the car. That was one of my favorite moments growing up.
Running down the sidewalk to go put it on in the other place. So that was how I felt in that moment.
I can imagine.
And then like a whole year went by because they were supposed to drop the game in April 2020. And then they pushed it back to November and then eventually December. But in November, I believe it was, they dropped their last gameplay or their last game trailer. And I had no idea. I was just watching it because I'm interested. My music's in the game, but I'm also becoming a fan. Like, this game just looks super badass. So I'm watching the trailer. It's like a 5-minute trailer. And it gets to the last 45 seconds of the game, and all of a sudden it's my song, Makes Me Feel Better, jamming, just jamming right at the end. And then it finishes with my song playing as it drops the title, Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh my! What a feeling! Yeah, what does that feel like, man? Yeah.
Oh, it was wild. I was by myself too, so it was just so wild because I was all of a sudden like buzzing, like a fire had just been lit under my butt, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this energy right now. Like, this is insane.
That's incredible, man. I mean, the biggest game of 2020.
Legit.
You have not only the trailer song, but multiple songs in the game. So you finish 2020 like that. 2021, what's up next, man? I mean, you just released the EP, right?
Yeah. So on January 1st of this year, I dropped an EP called Laser Burn, and you can find it on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube. It's called Laser Burn.
We'll put the link.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somewhere next to the
clickable.
beer. Yeah.
Yeah. So this album, it's a 3-song EP, and it's 3 of the songs that I wrote for Cyberpunk. I wrote about 14 to pitch, and they took 2 of them. So then I chose these other 3 that I think are some of the best songs I've made just in general. And so I put them together on an EP, and it's called Laser Burn, and you can find that online. And I dropped that, and then after playing the video game, I got even more into this cyberpunk vibe. So I'm working on a song right now that I don't know if I have an official title for it yet, but it's going to be called something along the lines of like Johnny Relax. Keanu Reeves' character is named Johnny. Yep. And I found this really funny old TV sample that just goes, Johnny, relax. And like just before the drop of this cyberpunk theme song. So yeah, keep an eye out for something like that.
Last call.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Last call.
We all know what that sound. We all know what that sound means on NO. We're getting kicked out of this place right now. Okay? One last thing for you, man, before we go. Thank you so much, first of all, dude. This has been incredible. I'm a big fan of yours, man. I'm so grateful that you joined us on this show. It's been amazing. And my one last question, actually 2 questions for you. Can you send me a lobster roll with this sauce on it like once a week? Because this is one of my favorite meals that I've ever had. And then 2, if you had an autobiography written about your life, coming out today. What would the title be, OnenO?
Ooh, Autobiography. Well, considering I've never named a band before, I don't know if I can name a book. But I think
So maybe so the nameless OnenO.
No, it'd probably have to be something along the lines of maybe it'd be a how-to book. I feel like I'm kind of a spiritual teacher of sorts. Not that that sounds too much of a highfalutin title for me, but I'd maybe make a how-to book and I would just call it How to Love. And it'd be simple. It'd be simple.
I love that.
It'd just be about living in truth and showing up to people without an image of who you think they should be.
That speaks to your soul, man. It really does. The story
That's my daily mantra.
I love that.
I mean, can we get one more cheers to OnenO right now?
One more cheers to you, brother.
You boys are amazing. Thank you for having me on.
Dude, thanks for coming on, man. Seriously, I love you, brother. You're an inspiration to me, and I feel like I could speak for these guys as well. We love you,
man. I got nothing but love for you too, bro, and I support you. I hope this podcast succeeds beyond your wild expectations, and I want to come back on after you're blowing up through the roof.
Yeah, I was thinking episode 2, 3, 4, and 5 you could be part of too.
Hit me up.
If keyboards on, you never know.
Let me tell you what, if there's going to be more lobster and beer in each episode, I'm in.
I got you. We're just going to send a boat your way.
Please. I will happily take it because damn, that shit was good.
Too good.
Just. All right, let's see.
Yes.
Wait, I want to do that again. The talking was the hardest part. Did you notice that?
I see what you're doing. No, it's fucking perfect.
I'm so hyped.
What's up, beautiful humans? I'm OnenO, and you're watching Lobster and Beer TV.
Hey guys, I know we got kicked out of the bar. They called last call, but we're back. And I just want to let you know we appreciate you guys so much. Our fan base means everything to us. So if you can, hit the like button, subscribe right here, and hit us up on Instagram, socials, everything. Lobster and Beer TV. We love you. We will see you on the next episode. Peace!